I'd like to thank our media sponsors, KSDY and Univision Radio. Thank you. I'd also like to thank our partnering organizations that helped us plan and promote this event, and to all our questioners here in the front in our panel. Thank you. And last but not least, I would like to thank each and every one of you in the audience for attending tonight. It is you that inspired us to organize this District Attorney Forum. Now, I want to talk a little bit about why this District Attorney race matters to the Latino community and to the community at large. Crime and criminal punishment are some of the most important public policy questions in American politics today, yet our community often does not seem to fully grasp a district attorney's power to influence that public policy. In the lead up to this event, two of our association's committee members, Rafael Hurtado and Ben Aguilar, organized community workshops to educate community members, including immigrants, on the power and impact of the district attorney's office. It came as no surprise that participants had virtually no idea what the district's attorney's role in serving our community was. Now, it's not just immigrants and minorities that are uninformed. Consider this. 12 years ago, in 2002, the last time we had a district attorney race, nearly 80,000 voters that voted for the gubernatorial candidate did not vote for the district attorney candidate. This is a serious problem, and we can do better. Our goal here today is to delve deeper into these public policy questions to shed light on certain criminal justice issues and understand a district attorney's power over those issues. For example, crime has steadily declined in San Diego County and in the United States over the last 20 years, but our prison population over that same time has doubled from 1 million Americans behind bars to over 2 million Americans behind bars. This is a powerful statistic. Our goal here is to understand the causes behind this seeming paradox and to ask our candidates how and why we punish. Our candidates today will answer questions related to how we punish persons such as juveniles, human traffickers, and whether we are punishing persons that are put in jail before they are found guilty. Candidates will answer questions related to why we punish drug offenders, which represent close to 40% of the district attorney's felony prosecutions, and whether rehabilitation options are a viable alternative. Lastly, we will also explore how each district attorney candidate plans to work with local law enforcement and the public at large to both educate our communities on public safety issues and improve processes that either treat people unfairly or unequally. In his draft of the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson set forth the principles that all persons are created equally, and that it is from that equal creation that they derive the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our district attorney is tasked with the somber role of taking those rights away from individuals. It is our duty as a community to ask how and why each of our district attorney candidates will take away these rights from offenders if elected. Joanne Ferrion and Amitha Sharma will be responsible tonight for shepherding the candidates through this forum. It is my pleasure and privilege to introduce them both to you today. Joanne Ferrion is an award-winning journalist with iNewsSource, a nonprofit journalism enterprise embedded in the KPBS newsroom. Amitha Sharma is part of the KPBS Investigative Reporting Unit and occasionally hosts KPBS's Evening Edition. Now, without further ado, I present to you Joanne Ferrion and Amitha Sharma. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Candidates, we want to briefly explain the rules tonight. This isn't as formal as a debate. Think of it more as a town hall.
The questions have been pre-selected from among SDL RLA members, its partnering organizations, and experts in particular fields.
I'm going to loosely keep track of time. Candidates will get about 2 minutes to respond to questions, but I strongly urge other candidates to jump in at any time. We really want a lively discussion.
We want to get a sense of how you think, not a rehearsed stump speech.
I'll be the referee, but as long as you stay on topic and you answer the question and not evade it, I'll let you keep going.
Our goal tonight is quality answers, not quantity, but we do expect to cover about 8 key issues.
And now, while Amitha makes her way down to the audience to begin questions, I'll remind candidates we will have closing statements. They will be timed. You'll get up to 3 minutes. The yellow light will come on during the last 30 seconds. And we did have a random draw backstage to decide the order, and Mr. Brewer will be going first with regard to the first question, and I'm going to toss it over to Amitha.
Question comes from Selena Caprio. She's the program director of Mana Hermanitas program, which works to promote higher education, leadership development, and peer support to young local Latinas. The topic that she's going to be asking the question from is juvenile justice. Criminal behavior can start at a young age. In 2010, persons between the ages of 15 and 24 constituted 14% of the population and represented 39% of those arrested for all crimes. The DA's office has the key role of deciding whether to prosecute certain juvenile crimes and also of deciding whether to charge a minor as an adult. Take it from there.
Thank you. Good evening. My question is, if elected, what would you do? I'm a big hog. Good evening. Thank you, candidates, for joining us. My question is, if elected, what would you do to reduce the number of juveniles, including Latino and African American youth, that are brought into the criminal system? When do you file charges in adult court, and when do you pursue a case in juvenile court? Do you support diversion and mentoring programs for young first-time offenders? Thank you.
Yes, good evening, and thank you all for being here. My name is Bob Brewer, and I have the pleasure of answering the first question. Again, thank you. The back end of that question is what I want to address first, because yes, I am in favor of all forms of diversion, and certainly youth and diversion of youth away from the criminal justice system is a very, very important aspect. I am in favor of all kinds of diversion. There is one program that I am very familiar with that I think is terrific in keeping youth out of trouble, and that is the Star Pal program, which is monitored and funded to a large degree by the San Diego Police Department. And there are 4 police officers assigned to Star Pal, and they mentor young juveniles between the ages of, I think they start at around 9 and it goes up to 15 or 16. And they offer them all kinds of activities after school. They teach them about what a policeman's job is and help foster a strong relationship between the juveniles and the police. As to charging, obviously prosecutorial discretion is critical, and we need to look at all the factors that go into charging anyone with a crime, but certainly juveniles, you have to be extra careful and look at all the factors. Again, we want to keep juveniles out of the system. The revolving door is what we're opposed to. I am opposed to. We need to come up with ways to train and keep the youth focused on goals and keep them out of gangs. Anti-gang activity is very, very important. And as district attorney, I will do everything I possibly can to form outreach programs, to educate, and to keep the youth out of gangs. Keeping them out of the criminal justice system is one of our goals. Thank you.
Ms. Wyatt?
Thank you. My name is Terry Wyatt, and I'm running for district attorney. I was a deputy district attorney for over 26 years, and I prosecuted a lot of very serious cases. And if you pick up my handout, one of my handouts has a chart of 19 prison inmates who I personally prosecuted for murder, rape, robbery, 3 strikes, who are in prison for life. Part of my platform as district attorney when elected is to take our resources that we're utilizing in trying to rehabilitate prison parolees, adults who have been in and out of prison, and divert that over to our juvenile justice system. Do a better job with our juveniles at 12, 13, 14 when they first commit minor crimes, because we do have too many young people, young men shooting at each other still in this county. We do have too much gang activity, and we do not want to send anyone to prison for life. We want to turn them around, keep them from becoming hardcore gang members, keep them from becoming adult criminals who are in and out of prison, keep them from getting on a list like the one I have of 19 inmates who are in prison for life for murder. So I would like to do that, and I'd like to do that by partnering up with community leaders, with companies, with corporations to help youths learn job skills so that they become productive members of our society, so they have good goals, so they are not committing crimes. Get them off drugs, partner up with the methamphetamine strike force teams, and do anything we can, partner up with the schools and the PTA, but divert our resources over to our juveniles, because we could take a better bite out of a crime, I think, if we did that. So that would be part of my big platform as district attorney. And as a prosecutor for my entire career, I see that we could do a better job in that area. Thank you.
Ms. Dumanis?
Thank you. This is a conversation that we could have for a long time. Let me just share with you that first, as a deputy district attorney, I spent 2 years in the juvenile court doing dependency work, which is foster kids, child abuse, and that oftentimes is where it begins, is those that are abused become abusers. Then when I was on the bench, I spent 5 years in the juvenile court. And when I bring new deputy DAs on, I tell them that that is one of the most important areas that we have in the office, because if we can stop things there, we won't have to deal with it later. With respect to the filing decisions and diversion, as a judge, I started the drug court for adults, which is a program that works with nonviolent offenders to get them clean, sober, and productive. As a juvenile court judge, I worked in the drug court for juveniles. Much more difficult because juveniles think that they are invincible. But it is a good program. But let me back up a little bit and just explain how it happens, because I think there's a little bit of a misconception. Whether we get a case or not is based on whether or not probation refers the case to us. And many of the times, the diversion programs are actually law enforcement programs that we support, I support as the district attorney, and we divert many kids. In fact, more than 41% haven't come into the system. I'm trying to figure out how to say this right, but we are down 41%. We have programs in the juvenile court for drug addiction, for mental health issues. We also have a joint delinquency, dependency court, so that in case somebody really shouldn't be treated as a criminal, so to speak, we don't call juveniles criminal, but a ward, they go to dependency. With respect to whether or not to treat them as adults, that's a decision that I cherish very deeply. Having been a juvenile court judge, there are 707 hearings that I generally think is a judge's ability to see the evidence, hear the evidence, and make that decision based on all the circumstances. But there are some cases that are required to be direct to the adult court, and also there are some cases that are so heinous that we jointly make a decision about whether or not to charge them as an adult, and we do. But I am strongly in favor of keeping people out of the system, and in fact, if I had my way, we'd put more money into preschool, and that's where it all starts. The statistics are great to show that that has the best impact.
I want to just do a follow-up to the other two candidates, because Ms. Dumanis, you mentioned about charges in adult court versus juvenile court. To that question, I know you sort of touched on it, the other candidates, but specifically just in 15 or 20 seconds, are there certain crimes And what are they that you believe rise to that level where you would charge a juvenile in adult court?
Well, of course, there's serious crimes, and when there's serious crimes committed by juveniles, we have to take a hard look at charging them as adults. I mean, murders, rapes, robberies, you have those types of very serious crimes, and they are committed by juveniles in their late teens, and we have to make that decision as to whether or not they're going to be filed as an adult. I do want to correct one thing, though, that the district attorney said, and she's been saying this consistently. She said that she started the drug court. Well, she didn't start the drug court. The drug court was started by a deputy district attorney by the name of Ann Barber, and it was also started with a judge by the name of David Ryan and Paul Finks. Those are the three individuals, when you research into the drug court, those are the people that started the drug court. And Ann Barber got a huge award for what she did in starting the drug court. So David Ryan gets credit for starting the drug court.
I'm going to let you respond to that in a moment. Mr. Manis, I'm just going to toss the question to you, Ms. Wyatt.
Thank you. On the direct file of juveniles, there are some cases that are so violent, so heinous, that the district attorney has the discretion to file those directly in adult court, and I do think that's been a good program for hardcore gang violence, and that's what we have used it for, and I support that. Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Manis, did you want to respond?
Well, I think my record speaks for itself. North County branch had a different version. We had the first drug court that brought law enforcement, and we worked on it, and I've been recognized nationwide as being one of the supporters. And I also want to mention, by the way, I forgot, I'm a big supporter of MANA. We have our people in the district attorney's office go out to mentor young kids in schools so that they will look at becoming an investigator or a prosecutor. We have a diversity web page so that people can go there. We do a lot to outreach to the community so that kids won't get in there, including a youth advisory board.
And I'm going to move now to the second question to Amitha.
So our next question comes from Aida Garcia. She is NALEA's Education Fund Southern California's program manager, which supports programs that integrate Latinos fully into American political society and provides professional development opportunities to the nation's more than 6,000 elected Latinos and appointed officials. Her topic tonight is immigrant rights. California currently deports more immigrants with no or only minor criminal convictions than any other state. This results in immigrant communities having a low level of trust in law enforcement and results in victims of crimes not reporting the crimes they have suffered. Aida?
Thank you for being here. Should the DA's office have any role in cooperating with local law enforcement or federal immigration authorities to enforce our nation's immigration laws? Should the DA's office have a role in educating the public about the services it provides for victims of crimes, regardless of their immigration status? And does the DA's office have a role in helping develop a trusting relationship with immigrant communities? Thank you.
And Ms. Wyatt, if you'll take that question first.
Thank you. Yes, to an extent, the district attorney's office should be involved in that, and actually we are involved in that. We do cooperate and work with federal authorities on our victims of crime in allowing them to have U visa applications, and as a division chief in the DA's office, I did a number of those, and that is a procedure where a victim of crime can ask to have a visa here and their immigration status not be used against them to have them deported because they're a victim of a crime. So we do need to make sure that our victims come forward and are willing to report very violent crimes or any crimes, and they feel safe to do that. And we can continue to educate the public that we're willing to do that and that they won't be deported because they've reported a crime. And I think we're already doing that to a great deal and in a successful way. And I would continue to do that. Thank you.
Can I just, to the first part of that question, though, whether or not the DA's office has a role in cooperating with local law enforcement or federal immigration authorities to enforce our nation's immigration laws?
I felt
Sorry,
I
that's-
answered that question.
Okay.
I think to
You
an
should-
extent we do have a role, and we should continue to have a cooperative role. However, we're not the federal government that enforces the entire immigration rules and laws, and so there's a limited role that I think the district attorney's office should have in that regard. Thank you.
Ms. Dumanis?
Well, I don't think the DA's office really has a role in immigration status. We work cooperatively with law enforcement, but it's law enforcement that stops people, and that's when sometimes they become aware of the status of an individual. But I have to say that this is one area that I am very proud of, that we go out proactively to advise people that if they become victims of crime, it doesn't matter what your status, your economic, anything, that they should come forward. And in fact, we go on the Latino in the press, in the TV, in the radio regularly. And in fact, we've partnered with Univision to bring Spanish-speaking investigators and deputy DAs to go and answer questions as people call about becoming a victim. So we outreach in the community. That's one of the more important focuses that I've put on, is trying to make the district attorney's office accessible to all communities, because I am the DA of the people, of all people. And if you're a victim of crime, I want you to feel comfortable that you can come to us and not afraid in any way. And as Terry mentioned, the U visas is something I'm also very proud of. We worked with Casa Cornelius and other organizations, transborder organizations, to make sure that from the top down, people knew what a U visa was, when it was appropriate, and to facilitate that if appropriate. And we worked with the city attorney's office to bring them along as well, because we are a leader and we should lead in this area.
That was a three-part question, and as a former assistant U.S. attorney, I'm very familiar with immigration law and who is the first responder to enforce it, and it is the federal government. And there certainly should be cooperation when it can be, but the federal government is the first responder in immigration law. As to doing everything you can to help and find victims, I completely agree with what the district attorney just said. Victims are very important to fighting crime. We must find the victim, we must treat them with respect, we must cater to them through the process and make sure they understand that we care about them. And as to the first part of your question about the number of people that are deported for what I gather were minor offenses, I think we have to be aware of the Trust Act, which came into effect on January of this year, which was signed by Governor Brown, and I think we're the 7th or 8th state that has that. And I agree with that. And when a minor offender, who may be an undocumented person, is in custody, that person should be treated as a citizen for purposes of whether or not they're given bail and released and given a citation. And that's the Trust Act. That's the law, and I will follow the law when I am the district attorney. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should the DA's office reduce the rate of pretrial incarceration in San Diego County? If so, what steps could the DA's office take to safely reduce the rate of pretrial incarceration in San Diego County? Does holding suspects that can't afford bail punish them before they're found guilty?
Ms. Dumanis?
I think I'm up.
Yes.
Having been a former judge, the bail schedule is developed by the court, and so with a committee of judges, but we have input into that as well. So when someone is charged, it's based on a bail schedule, and it's based on flight risk, public safety, those kinds of things. Having said that, we have what's called AB 109, or prisoner realignment, and we have developed, as a result of that, that's the shift from the prisons to the local jail, where we have at least the last offense is a low-level offense, which means that now we have many more people in jail than before, and so we're now having to look at other ways to deal with detention issues because of the bed space. And working with the Sheriff's Department, There is a program, it's called CPOC. It's a bracelet, a GPS bracelet, and other levels. We also have pretrial services that will look at someone. We get together and agree whether or not, with the court, whether or not that person is a risk, and if they're not, then they are put on that and they are monitored. If they're not viewed as a safety risk, they are often released. It's usually the more serious crimes that they stay in custody, but we are looking at more and more opportunities for pretrial release. In fact, we're looking at the federal system, which has more active pretrial, so that we can also use places like that to do it.
Mr. Brewer?
Yes, AB 109 has caused a huge problem in the jail population of San Diego County and most counties in the state. Because of that, I think we have to be very, very forward-looking in pretrial diversion type of, in the detention area. I am all in favor of looking at reducing the number of people who are in pretrial detention. And we should come up with checklists. I'm all for the monitoring, the bracelet monitoring. We should look at it like we do other diversion. And we should look at really seriously, what can we do with this individual? Can we put them into another type of facility? Can we put them into a pretrial services facility? I am all in favor of reducing the pretrial detention population.
Thank you. I served for 5.5 years as the division chief of case issuing extraditions in the life or hearing unit, and under part of my duties and responsibilities was to actually create the bail schedule. So I knew it really well, and we work with the criminal defense bar, and we work with the judges and the DA's office to come up with what we think is a fair bail schedule. Having said that, there is a reality there that there's unfairness in the system, in that if you can afford a lawyer, then you're going to be able to post bail easier, and you're going to have an easier time in the system. And we do need to work on figuring out how to do that a little bit better. That's a socioeconomical or a pure economical issue that does result in an unfairness in our system. And I think we can look at that a little bit better and make sure that we're imposing the laws in a way that's an equal protection of the laws. Equal protection of the laws is an important cornerstone of our Constitution. And we do need to do a better job with that, because we have too many people of color at all stages incarceration for a longer period of time. I don't have all the answers, but I would really like to work with everyone in our community to figure out how to not have so many people of color in our prison systems and in jail longer. There's a better way of doing it. And I know the district attorney in El Paso has a system which I think we ought to look at, which is when somebody is arrested for a crime, there are deputy district attorneys, 724 experience on board to determine whether there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt from the get-go, or whether that person should even be held in jail. And I think that would alleviate some of the jail overcrowding. But you have to balance that with safety of the community, because you don't want to have a revolving door of arresting somebody right away and having them released right back to go back to the victim that maybe they had victimized. It's very important to make sure we're protecting victims in our community at the same time. So we need to get that balance, but I think we can do a better job with that, and there's ways of working with community leaders to figure out, and the sheriff's department, it's just a better way. Some of those devices of putting the bracelets on cost a lot of money. I mean, that person has to pay for that every single day. So again, people with money are the only ones that can get on those bracelet programs. So there's that issue too. Thank you.
May I respond?
Yes.
Nobody is deprived of being on that because of money. So if the person can pay, they certainly would pay. But if not, then the county pays for that. And I also want to just point out that judges actually get probable cause determinations when cases come through the system. They have to review the police reports to make sure that there's a reason for them staying in the system. So there are a lot of different avenues. But I also want to say that we meet about every 6 weeks with a criminal defense bar, and we have the public defenders are all represented, as well as the retained or defense bar. And if you have ideas, I'm more than happy to take a look at them, because I'm all for thinking out of the box. That's what I'm known for, and I'll be happy to work on things with you.
Mr. Brewer, did you want to respond at all? No? Okay.
Thank you.
We're going on to our next question.
Our next question comes from Juan Carlos Hernandez. He is a board member of the San Diego County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, an organization dedicated to promoting opportunities for Hispanic businesses and the greater community. His topic is the state budget. California spends a tremendous amount of money on corrections at both the state and county level. Approximately 30 years ago, 10% of California's general fund went to fund higher education and 3% went to fund prisons. In 2010, 7.5% went to higher education, and 11% of California's budget was spent on prisons. Crime, however, has steadily declined both nationwide and countywide for the last 20 years.
Good evening, Candace. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. Our question is, in developing policies for charging and plea bargaining, would you consider the impact choices have on both San Diego's county and state's corrections budget?
And that's to you, Mr. Brewer.
Yeah, yes, I would. The budgets are obviously a huge problem. But one of the things I also want to make the point is the premise of the question that crime is declining across the nation and certainly in the state. There certainly are categories of crime that are declining, but there are also categories of crime that are increasing. For example, because of AB 109, in my opinion, larceny, property crimes, burglaries have increased, and it's not decreasing all around the county. For example, in El Cajon, La Mesa, and Lemon Grove, crime increased last year, upwards to 9% to 14% in El Cajon. So there are pockets of problems. And then we go to the murder rate. I know the district attorney talks often about the fact that it's down 30% from 2012. But 2010, the murder rate was 69. 69 people in this county were murdered in 2010. In 2011, it went up to 81. And in 2012, it went up to 107. So it increased significantly for 2 years and then has come back down over the last year. So we can't generally say crime is down. Crime vacillates and it goes up and down. And because of that, we have obviously increased people in custody. And that is obviously a mechanism of increased crime. And as to cutting the budget, it is a huge problem in this state. AB 109 has increased the problem because we had to put 30,000 prisoners out of the state prison system back into the county jail system. And that has caused all kinds of problems. And there are a concomitant number of budgetary issues that have to be solved. So there's no silver bullet to solving this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I don't think we solve our state budget problems by pushing down state criminals to be serving time in our local county jails. I think that's a mistake. I think we absorbed a big problem there from the state with AB 109, with the realignment law. I don't agree with that law. I think it's been a disaster for all of us. But I also think we need to figure out a lot of different balances here. We need to protect our victims of crime first. And I spent my entire career, over 26 years, protecting victims of crime, prosecuting a lot of serious cases, murder cases, rape cases, and I did a great job with victims of crime at all stages. And so when people are seriously and violently victimizing members of our community, then they do need to go to state prison, but they need to be in prison for doing violent crimes. I think we can do a better job, though, with our addiction problems and our mental health problems. We are failing with those two areas. We have putting people in jail and prison over and over again for addiction issues is not working and hasn't worked. So we need to do something more about that, and that will ease some of the crowding and overcrowding in our jails and our prisons. And the same token with our mental health systems. I want to work more with mental health providers, mental health communities to figure out a better way to deal with people with severe mental health problems. And I know we've been dealing this for a long time, but there has to be better ways because we don't seem to be getting anywhere. And just housing people for mental health problems is very costly and hasn't been working. So I would definitely look for some solutions for all of that with community leaders and groups and companies to do a better job, because we can't just be sending so many people in prison indefinitely for addiction issues and those type of things. We just really do need to work on that because it's cost us all too much money. Thank you.
So here's the problem. It costs in state prison $50,000 a year to house someone. In local jail, it costs $35,000. But to treat somebody, I think the most it would cost is $15,000. And that's why we've been on the cutting edge of reentry programs. In 2005, we sponsored legislation for creating a program where we went into prison, they got the counseling that they needed, we got them out of prison, wraparound services so that we stopped the revolving door. We saved money, we saved lives, and we saved victims. We began the process right then. And in fact, for AB 109 or realignment, that's really been the template. We learned from that. That's been the template, so we know how to do it. We just need to get the resources to do it. Nobody came, no 30,000 people in jail came out to local jail. What AB 109 did was, for the future, any person that was convicted of a nonviolent, non-sexual case would go to local jail as opposed to prison. It shifted the burden from the state on parole to most of those to probation, which is called community corrections. And we're all working, the sheriff, chief probation officer, public defender, health and human services, we're all working together to make sure that we can turn people's lives around that can be, that we put the bad guys, the really bad guys, away for as long as we can, and we stop the revolving door so that people can get clean, sober, and productive again. And I agree with comments about mental health. That's part of the problem. The sheriff will tell you that the biggest mental health provider in the county is the jail. And police departments will tell you that most of what they do lately is mental health calls.
May I follow up?
Yeah.
Sure. Mr. Guerrero.
Just as a follow-up, I just want to say that what Ms. Wyatt said about mental health and addiction is absolutely correct. We are not doing enough in that area. And there are way too many people in jail with mental health and addiction problems that are not being treated. When I'm the district attorney, one of the first things I will do will convene a summit conference in this county of all the stakeholders in the mental health and addiction area, along with law enforcement and the sheriff, and we're going to sit down and we're going to say, how can we solve this problem? And one of the individuals in this state who's taking a leadership role in this is the district attorney in Los Angeles, Jackie Lacey. She is taking a hard look at the thousands of people in the Los Angeles County jail system with mental health and addiction problems. And when I'm the district attorney, I'm going to tap into all the resources of the people that are looking at this problem, and we're going to try and solve it.
Can I jump in?
Sure. Ms. White.
I want to jump in on two things. One, our county jails are not built to house long-term state prisoners. They are not. The state prisons are built for that. There's big exercise yards. There's better facilities. And this is a dangerous situation that AB 109 created with people getting long-term sentences, prison sentences, to be held in our jails. We have had the prison gangs have come to our local jails. We've had more assaults between inmates and on correctional officers. And it isn't fair to the inmates either. They are not getting the right treatment and the right type of facility to be in for long-term housing, and most of them don't want to be in the local jails for their long term.
What do you do
So
about
that's
it, though?
wrong.
This is the law. You both have sort of said you don't like this law, but it is the law. So what do you do?
Well, I support any efforts to repeal the law. I think this law was a mistake. It was done for budget reasons, and I don't think it should be the law. But I think lawsuits are coming down the pike from inmates that this is not proper for them to be housed for 10 years in our local jails. And our local sheriff and probation department cannot do a better job housing long-term state prisoners. And also, probation department is not trained to supervise parolees. That has been a disaster, I think, and that has not been a good situation all around. And our local government officials allowed this law to pass because they were hoping to get money.
I think Mr. Brewer wants to jump in on this.
Well,
Yeah.
all I wanted to say was this wasn't because of budgetary problems. This was because the Supreme Court ordered the state of California to reduce its state prison population from 172,000.
But there are other ways to do that than put them in county jail. There are other ways.
It was ordered to reduce it from 172% to 135%. It was a United States Supreme Court order. California had no choice. That's why AB 109 was passed. Now, they didn't fund it appropriately. I agree that we don't have the facilities to house long-term prisoners. I disagree with when the district attorney said 30,000 people weren't realigned. They were realigned. We had to reduce the number of people in the state prison system, and they were put into the county system, or they were put on probation. That's what happened. It was a terrible situation, but California created it itself. The people in Sacramento did not plan on housing 172% of the state prison system. Shame on them. Now we're living with the results, and it is a huge problem.
We're going to
Just add one more
sure.
thing.
30 seconds, Mr. Manis, to respond to that.
Just
yes.
on the mental health issue, one of the reasons why we started the behavioral court, which is also mental health, is because of the many mental health problems that we're seeing, and that's why we're dealing with mental health issues. And we do convene regularly to talk about all these issues with all the stakeholders. It is a problem and one we're addressing.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next issue.
So our next question comes from San Diego, an organization that seeks to advance the status of women in the law and in society. Her topic is human trafficking. The issue of human trafficking, and particularly sex trafficking of minors, is a growing but sometimes invisible problem in the San Diego region. Recent statistics indicate that it is the fastest growing area for gangs and other organized crime entities.
Thank you all for being here. My question is, what concrete steps would each of you take to address the issue of human trafficking, and specifically sex trafficking of minors, from a holistic view, both from within the district attorney's office and in the broader community?
I can answer that. I think this office is already doing that. I will commend Bonnie Dumanis for stepping forward and doing that quite a while ago, several years ago. We've had specialists doing human trafficking cases in our Family Protection Division, and we've stepped up our efforts in that way. And those cases are treated very seriously already, and those victims are being treated with as much compassion as possible. The second part of that, though, is I think the victims, we need to make sure we're following up on them when they start becoming defendants in juvenile court because of being victimized by human traffickers. I think we could do a little bit better job there and making sure we're continuing to look at them as victims when we need to and do that second half of it. But I think this office has already done a good job with this and has partnered up with agencies and the U.S. Attorney's Office as well. Thank you.
On that,
Yes.
I kind of lost track there. Our office actually in 2006 handled the first case of human trafficking under the state law. For a long time it was primarily handled in the federal law, and we began doing human trafficking then. With the Sheriff's Department, they got a grant to start educating law enforcement to what to look for. Our office already, concretely, just to bring you up to date, we have been involved in human trafficking for several years now. We have renamed our sex crimes and stalking to sex crimes and human trafficking because it is such a vital problem right now. And we were just recognized in LA for, I was on a panel for best practices, and we work with the LA District Attorney, the YWCA there, got some good ideas there too as well. So we helped put out posters for victims in areas that are required by the law, but in addition to where victims would be, gives a 1-800 number so that they can call, or if you think someone's a victim, they can call. We have people designated in every branch of our office to be doing human trafficking. We've helped sponsor legislation, and in terms of the victims or the young girls, and by the way, the young girls are the average age 12 to 14, and they're from our schools, not from other places, and it's opposing gangs working together. We are trying to take a more holistic approach, looking at trying to help with Seroptimists and our community providers to get more shelters to put them in, as well as to look at ways we can treat them. Unfortunately, sometimes keeping them in juvenile hall is the best approach because the pimps are waiting for them and waiting for them at areas where they are released to. So we've got to do something to help turn them around so that they don't wind up back on the streets again.
I respectfully disagree. I don't think we're doing enough, and I think we should do a lot more. There are very good systems around this state of some very forward-looking district attorneys, and for example, what's being done in San Bernardino County is what we should do here. The district attorney in San Bernardino County has created a CASE program, he calls it, a Coalition Against Sexual Exploitation. It is a tremendous public-private task force which is using significant outreach to find these poor victims and to prosecute these defendants. We can do more. We can always do more. This is the fastest growing crime in this county. And if it's the fastest growing crime, we've got to do better. And again, this is another area that when I'm the district attorney, I'm going to convene a summit conference of all the stakeholders who are going to be working in this area. And we're going to do a better job. We're going to bring in the district attorney from San Bernardino. We're going to learn from that individual because he has some innovative programs. We can do better, and we will do better when I'm the district attorney.
May I interject here?
Yes, 30 seconds for a response.
Just want to let you know that we were on the cutting edge. We convened a summit, I think it was last January, to bring all the stakeholders together, law enforcement, the community, and it was the Board of Supervisors as well, working together to come up with best practices, and we continue to have a human trafficking task force that gets together on a regular basis, countywide, and we are very proactive. That doesn't mean, though, there aren't new ways that we will look at. That's why we have California District Attorney's Office. We get together coming up pretty soon. I was president of that organization, and we share ideas. We talk to one another. And I'm all for any new idea.
I'm going to cut in here and move on because we only have time for one more question before final arguments. We want to make sure you each get your 3 minutes. And we're going to ask this next question if you keep your responses to about a minute so that we get everybody out of here by 8 o'clock as promised.
So our final question comes from Lizette Herrera. She's a board member of the San Diego County Bar Association, the region's oldest and largest law-related organization. Her topic is racial profiling. Until recently, the San Diego Police Department did not collect racial data related to traffic stops. As of approximately 6 months ago, the SDPD began systematically collecting racial data related to traffic stops. That data shows that African Americans are stopped twice as often as their driving age demographic representation, and that once stopped, African Americans' cars are searched at 3 times the rate of whites' cars, and Latinos' cars are searched at twice the rate of whites' cars.
You know, appropriately enough, I got pulled over today and I got a ticket. And so, rightly so, though, I will admit to it. I do have to tell you, though, I was curious, do you believe that racial profiling actually exists in San Diego County? And if so, does the district attorney's office have a role in working with local law enforcement to reduce racial profiling in traffic stops?
And just a reminder, we're going to keep these responses to a minute, and I believe, Ms. Dumanis, you're first to respond to this one.
I think perception is reality, and I think there is a perception, and I think that it's being, at least in San Diego PD, I think they're looking at it. But what we did in the DA's office was to invite the Vera Institute in to look at our case issuing decisions, to look at whether they were race neutral. I think that's a good idea to sort of drill down on the data. But I certainly think it's totally inappropriate to racially profile. And, you know, I would support any efforts to look at, you know, why that perception is out there, how to deal with that perception. If people are being stopped for that reason, then they should be dealt with and held accountable for doing that. It needs to be changed.
Mr. Brewer.
Well, it's not only inappropriate, it's illegal. And the district attorney, the district attorney is in a unique position with their own internal data to look and see if racial profiling is occurring. They can look at the circumstances of stops. Where do they occur? What are the neighborhoods? They can make that decision with their own internal data. And if they see any indication of that, they have to sit down with their police officer partners and say, this can't happen. And they have to explain the law. That's what they should do.
The reason I'm running for district attorney is I want to bring the district attorney's office back to justice. Seeking and obtaining justice is the most important part of the role of a district attorney for everyone, for suspects, for people stopped by police officers, for defendants, for victims, for everyone. And it is unconstitutional for police officers to stop people without reasonable cause. I believe in following the Constitution to the letter. And I believe that we need to get back to making sure we have equal protection of the laws in all parts of this county, that we need to have the Constitution followed in all parts of this county. There is a perception that there's been racial profiling, and it's been documented and investigated for an entire past year or 2 years with Chief Lansdowne, who is very good friends with our district attorney. We need to get politics out of the district attorney's office and get back to justice and make sure we are following every part of the Constitution, which is what I will do. Thank you.
I've been the district attorney for 12 years, humbly and proudly, and in those 12 years, we've accomplished a lot. Crime is at historic lows. We are at a point where violent crime is the second lowest it's been. And yes, 33% of the homicides went down last year. We have done that partially because our team has a 94% conviction rate. We have the best team in the entire world. And part of the reason for that is that when I came on board, we made diversity one of the values of our office. And I'm proud to say that we have done it and done it effectively. 50% of my executive team is Latino. In other areas, they're represented from other minority groups as well. Nearly a third of our total employees are Latino. We have representation from all communities that reflect the community that we serve, because we need to have the public trust based on that diversity. I started out as a clerk typist, became a deputy DA, a judge, and now have been the district attorney. I've worked shoulder to shoulder with law enforcement. That's why I have the sheriff's endorsement, Sheriff Gore, the Attorney General, Kamala Harris, all the chiefs of police of this San Diego County, as well as for the state, as well as I'm proud to have the deputy DAs who I work with day in and day out, their association, and our investigators who know me best, their association, supporting me as well. But I'm also proud to have the support of the National Latino Peace Officers, the Black Peace Officers Association, LAPA, MAPA, and Filipino American Lawyers Association, Tom Homan Lawyers Association, as well as the Korean Bar Association. My whole entire life has been dedicated to equal justice for everyone. But let me tell you what really motivates me. I am passionate about making sure victims are protected. It takes me back to Laura Arroyo. A little girl, remember her, 1991, she was murdered, and it went unsolved until 2003. We opened a cold homicide case. I met with that family and bringing them a measure of justice. That person is now on death row because of DNA that we used to re-examine that case. It's meeting with the victims, Chelsea King, Amber Dubois, Charlie and Jonathan. Those are the ones I remember, and I work every day because we have to give justice to crime victims and their families. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Terry Wyatt, and I'm running for district attorney. I would like to be your district attorney. Truth, justice, equal protection of the laws, fairness, integrity, and a high standard of ethics. Those are the principles and values that you should require of your district attorney's office. Those are the principles and values that I will bring to this office. I want to give voters a chance to elect a career prosecutor, not a politician. I have spent my entire career as a deputy district attorney prosecuting cases up and down this county, and I have represented and helped many, many victims over the time. I've tried almost 90 jury trials, 58 of them serious felonies. My father was a California Highway Patrol officer, and my mother was a registered nurse in San Bernardino County, so public service was in my blood. I'm 54 years old. I'm a California native. I came to San Diego in 1983 to go to law school, to this law school, USD. And I specifically went to USD to be a deputy district attorney because I believe in my core that being a deputy district attorney is about seeking and obtaining justice, period. Not about political grandstanding, not about ego, not about making any political choices. And I would like to bring this office back to only being about justice. I would like to create an elder abuse task force. We have not done a good enough job protecting our seniors. Crimes against elders are 11% in San Diego City and 4% countywide. Last year alone, 14 elders died in this county believed to be from abuse or neglect in nursing homes. We need to do a better job with our seniors. As we all get older, we get more vulnerable. And I have prosecuted many serious cases, and I also handle the prison parole hearings of every case that I prosecuted on murder cases so that those victims of crime and their loved ones know that I'm the same person handling the parole hearing for those murderers. And I'm proud to say many of those victims have supported me and endorsed me. But I am not the district attorney candidate that has pandered to special interest groups or is connected to the downtown political machinery. I'm an independent deputy district attorney who's a career prosecutor. And I do have an issue with Mr. Brewer being the district attorney because his prosecution experience is so limited and so remote. The last time he was a deputy district attorney was in 1977 for 2 years in Los Angeles, fresh out of law school. That is a long time. He has never been a deputy district attorney in this county and in this office. You need somebody that knows this office from the ground all the way up. That would be me. If it's time for a change, and I think people feel it's time for a change, then it should be the right change. It needs to be a career prosecutor, not a politician, and not somebody grandstanding or looking for a job for ego purposes. Thank you.
Mr. Brewer?
Thank you. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank the sponsors. I want to thank the two moderators. And I want to thank the people who brought the questions to us tonight. I only have 3 minutes, so I have to stop with the thank yous. But I really appreciate all of you being here tonight. My name is Bob Brewer. I'm a first-time candidate. I've never run for office before. But it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing for Bob Brewer to do. Because my entire life, the leadership positions that I've held have prepared me for this job. I was a 24-year-old company commander of an infantry company in Germany. I was the assistant chief of the criminal division of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles. I've been the managing partner of McKenna and Cuneo and McKenna, Long and Aldridge for 19 years. And I was on their management committee for 5 years, an international firm of 450 lawyers. I've been the managing partner of the San Diego office of Jones Day, an international law firm of 2,400 lawyers. And by the way, I am so proud of being in Jones Day because we have 16 domestic offices and 8 of them are led by women. And we are very proud of that fact. This experience that I just shared with you has prepared me through a lifetime of work to be the district attorney of this county. And it's definitely time for a change in leadership of this office. This is a law enforcement job. Everybody knows that. And all 3 of us competed to obtain law enforcement's endorsement in this county. We all appeared before the police officer associations, every one of us. But I'm also endorsed by an unprecedented number of individuals who want me to be the next DA. I'm endorsed by 4 former United States attorneys in San Diego, from San Diego. I've been endorsed by the San Diego City Attorneys Association, the only other organization that can endorse. That's a prosecution agency. There is no question that it's time for a change. I have the experience. I have the passion. I have the individuals who will support me. I need your support. Please remember to vote next Tuesday. It is very important, and I so much appreciate the opening comments today on how important this job is. It is critical. Thank you very much.
And thank you also, a big thank you to everyone in the front row who asked very pointed questions, very issue-based questions, and I'm sure that everyone in the audience walks away a little bit more enlightened about our criminal justice system.
On behalf of La Raza Lawyers Association, thank you so much and drive safely.
That's the last one.